Hello. By way of introduction, my name is Gareth Goldthorpe, and I recently won the PEFC International Photography Competition with this image. Now, in return for the winning shot, PEFC have asked me to provide a little feedback in way of this video by answering 3 questions for them. So the first of those questions was, how do I feel about forests, both personally and professionally? So I thought, what better way to answer that question than to take you now to a forest nearby here. So we are now near a village in France called Saint-Hilaire in the Rhône-Alpes region. I don't know this forest very well. We only moved here a couple of weeks ago, so I've not done any deep exploration yet. But as you can see, it's a mixed, very much a mixed woodland. So, to the question, what do forests mean to me? How do forests make me feel? Well, I've been very lucky in that growing up as a kid, we always lived near a forest or a woodland. And so I spent a lot of my childhood running around the woods, running around the forests, exploring and having fun. And I think that's primarily what forests mean to me, possibly why I got into the work that I am now in. They're complex habitats, and I like the complexity. I like the fact that every time you walk through a woodland, through a forest, everything's a little bit different. There's always something new to discover. Professionally speaking, well, I'm a conservation biologist, so I've spent a lot of time working in forests. They are a much sought after resource. So they're a resource obviously for the wildlife that live in the forest, but it's also obviously an important resource for communities. So as I said, there's a village not far from here called Saint-Hilaire. A lot of the homes there rely on fuel wood for burning in the cold winters. And that's obviously where a lot of my work is involved, making sure the resources are allocated to those that need them in a sustainable way. Which brings us quite nicely to the second question, which was what do organisations like PEFC mean to me? I think they have a very important role. I've worked in many developing countries where the economies, both national and local, are just flourishing, let's say, and obviously there's a temptation to extract resources quickly and fast and make as much money in a short time as possible, which is kind of what we did here in the West. Very important to make sure that the extraction of natural resources, be it timber or non-timber products, that they are harvested in a sustainable way. Now the third question is more about the image that I took, and I think I'm going to answer that back at home on this cold September morning. So, I'll see you there. So here we are back at home, safe and sound. The third subject that PEFC wanted me to talk about was about the image itself. So it's a very simple story. The photograph is called The Morning Star, and the forest that features in it is called Belcombe Forest, which sounds like a very English name, but actually it is in France. It's near the small town that we used to live in called Issenjo. That's in the Haute-Loire region, so not far from where we are now. And it's a place that I would regularly take my dog for a walk. And on this particular morning, it was a mid-January morning, I was there with Monty, the dog, and there had been quite a lot of snow the previous 2 or 3 days. And because at that time of the day the sun was quite low behind the forest, because of the snow on the ground, the trees were very nicely illuminated from the reflection of the sun. So even though it's a backlit scene, the trees themselves aren't so much in shadow. So I knew it'd make a very compelling image. I didn't have my camera with me that day, unfortunately, but not to worry. I returned the next morning earlier, set up my camera on the tripod, and looked for the right composition whilst I waited for the sun to come up. It didn't take long to find what I think is a very good composition, with the trees sort of very much centred in the image, particularly the two that are quite close together right in the centre. And as the sun came up behind those and shining between the two trees, between the narrow gap, creating this kind of star effect, hence the name of the photograph, Morning Star. So I think the important thing to remember, and the reason why the photograph works, it's back to this idea of the complexity of the forest, this sort of three-dimensional structure. It wasn't for the architecture of the forest, with these very rank and file, straight, almost branchless trees, interacting with the fresh snow on the ground and the sun coming behind. It's that nature, complex nature of the forest that makes the photograph what it is. So there, that's the story. That's the story behind the photograph. I do have a website. If you like that image, you can go to the Photosphere is the name of the website, but if you Google GarethGoldthorpe.com, that should get you there. Maybe I will try and put a link into the video, or get my eldest, Ethan, who's a bit of a wizard with the video editing. He has his own YouTube channel. I'll get him to help me with that. So thank you, Ethan, in advance. And also, of course, just really remains for me to say thank you to PEFC for choosing my photograph. Keep up the good work in the forests around the world, and thanks. Bye bye.